Hello everyone, Mr. H here with you. Welcome to the 20s. Time to party. It's Great Gatsby time. How you guys doing today? Mr. H here with you. It's a whole new era, just like the book, chapter 22, The New Era. The 1920s start off with some new amendments. Start off with the 18th Amendment, XVI, ratified 1919, takes effect in 1920. It's prohibition, no booze. So if you want to celebrate the new decade, guess what you're not doing? Not saying it didn't happen, but it wasn't legal at any rate. So Carrie Nation's efforts have finally crossed the finish line. Prohibition. Now the bad news about prohibition, it kind of has some pretty bad spin-offs. Gonna get Al Capone and a guy named Joe Kennedy ran booze over the Canadian border. He's going to use it to finance his son's presidential run later on. JFK, hadn't been for prohibition, never would have heard of JFK or Al Capone. It's the law of unintended consequences. You're trying to do the right thing, and then, other stuff happens you can't foresee, like throwing a rock in a pond. You get the ripples, you don't know what the ripples are going to do. Maybe it stirs up mosquitoes. Maybe it destroys a mosquito net. Maybe it bothers the ducks. It dislodges the beer cans in the corner over there. Now you get to see them float across the lake. That kind of thing. Long ago and far away when I was a kid, I threw a snowball at this. I was up on a hillside overlooking I-279, and I threw a snowball at this car with an open sunroof. I have no idea why it's an open sunroof. I have no idea why I'm throwing a snowball at it. But you're a kid, you don't know any better. And I'm trying to make the shot, and there's no way I'm going to make this shot. I know it, but I'm doing it anyway. And guess what? Hole in one. Don't know what happened after that. I took off running. I like to think his car didn't slide over the railing and blow up or anything, so I hope he's okay. Moving on. 19th Amendment. Hey, XIX, women finally get the right to vote. First proposed in 1887. Of course, this started way before then. Abigail Adams telling her husband, please don't forget the ladies. Seneca Fall, all that kind of stuff. So it looks like the labors of prohibition are finally starting to bear fruit. Now I want to eat an apple. Anyway, prohibition, no booze. Women get the right to vote. Proposed the amendment 1887, ratified in 1919. Tennessee pushes it over the top in 1920. Mississippi ratifies it shortly afterwards in 1984. We love you, Mississippi, but you really need a new scheduling app of some kind. Rumor has it was in the back of a filing cabinet, and they found out when they cleaned it out. But hey, they finally got on board. It's all good. 18th and 19th Amendment. Welcome to the 20s. Everybody's happy. Everybody's celebrating. It's the 20s. Also have a new president. Woodrow Wilson had annoyed everybody there at the League of Nations. He had some medical issues. His wife was running the country for a while. That's right, Miss Galt, our first woman president, if it wasn't really official. But Warren G. Harding is now the new president. He's a Republican. And he's not going to be there very long. He had a heart attack in 1923 when he was on a cruise ship in Alaska and died. And why would the distress of the job get to him? I have no trouble with my enemies, but it's my peeping friends that keep me walking the floor nights. Yeah, you put your friends in charge, they end up screwing things up sometimes. They can get away with little things, which means they end up making bigger mistakes down the road. And Warren G. Harding might have had a heart attack over that. Not really sure what the real cause was, but it certainly could not have helped. So 20s, the economy's booming, everybody's having fun, and you've actually got pretty good people in government. We'll take a look at the good people before we get to the morons. Here's one of the good guys, Charles Evan Hughes. Never heard of the guy because he did his job right. That's just kind of one of the great injustices of this world. You do your job right, no one hears about you. Screw up, everyone knows who you are, right? Kardashians? So he was the Secretary of State under Harding. He went to the Washington Naval Conference, should say he hosted it. They were trying to get countries to disarm their navies or reduce it because we don't want to see a rerun of the First World War. He also went to Europe trying to get back the $22 billion our allies owed us. Allies, mainly France and Britain, are saying they're broke. They'll pay us back as soon as the Germans pay them back. And of course, Germany's broke. they fashioned this really ingenious, and I mean that sarcastic, plan called the Dawes Plan, where the United States loaned Germany money, and then Germany used that money to pay the debt to the French and British, who then used that money to pay us. Yeah, exactly. I don't know who came up with this idea, but that's what was going on. Only one country, one allied country, paid their debts back to us on time. Guess who that was? You will not get it. You ready? Finland. Yeah, Finland. How about that? Can't figure it out either. And of course, like I said, the First World War did a big number on a lot of people. They never really want to go through that kind of horror again. So they signed the Kellogg-Briand Pact, outlawing war. Yeah, did this in Paris. Yeah, how do you think that worked out? Well, Charles Evan Hughes, he kind of goes along signing because he's trying to get the 22 billion back. And who knows, maybe it'll work. Nope, it's not going to work. World War One followed by World War Two. That should tell you everything you need to know. Hey, here's a really good guy they had in office. Andrew Mellon, Secretary of Treasury from the great steel city of Pittsburgh. Had the budget balanced, everybody got paid on time, still waiting up on 22 billion from the Allies, but everything's working. He is an amazing guy. Everybody loves him in Pittsburgh. They even named a university for him. Yep, Carnegie Mellon University. You know what Carnegie is, right? He donated money, so they named. They also slapped on the other one, Carnegie Mellon University. Nice place to go. Been there a few times, didn't go to school there. People always ask, Mr. H, does Carnegie Mellon have a football team? Yes, they do. They're called the Tartans. And what's a tartan? Well, it's this, this fabric here, but, hey, they like to put it on the dog. So there we are. There's our official mascot, the CMU Tartans. Some people like it. I prefer this a little bit better there. I like that uniform. We use the old one now, but this is pretty good too. All right, now let's talk about some of the goofballs they had running here. Some of the people that probably pushed Harding right into the grave here. Albert Fuller, Secretary of the Interior, leasing out U.S. Navy oil reserves. What's wrong with that? Lease out U.S. Navy oil reserves because we're at peace. Take the money, give it to the government. Well, he got most of that right. He was leasing out the U.S. Navy oil reserves. He took the money and kept the money. Can't do that. They're not yours. Teapot Dome scandal. Guess who's going to prison? Charles Forbes running the Veterans Bureau. Government gives him the money. He sends it and decides where to allocate it within the Veterans Bureau. Yeah, didn't quite get there. Got the money, and that was that. Tried to run off with it. Tried to run to France. They caught him. Extradite back. Yeah, it's not going to end well for this guy. And of course, the Attorney General, Henry Dougherty. Yeah, I keep confusing this guy's name. Dougherty, I think it is. He was accused of influence peddling. What's this all about? Well, you're the Attorney General, means you're head of the entire justice system of the United States, and he's using his influence to try and get his friends out of trouble. Not supposed to do this. Go to prison for that. They couldn't exactly prove it was him, but they did kind of ask him to leave. So, they had something, just couldn't quite get it over the top. When you're asked to leave, chances are you've done something. Not saying anything, not pointing at anybody, just saying it's a fact of life. After Harding died, his vice president stepped up, and that's one good thing to say about the United States government. As goofball and inefficient and horribly wasteful as it can be, it is at least stable. So if something happens to the president, vice president steps in, and guess who that is? Calvin Coolidge, Mr. Personality, as you can see, right? Guy's just a barrel of laughs, right? As you guessed, he really didn't want the job. His wife talked him into it. Somehow he won re-election in 1924. I'm not really sure how. I'm not sure he knows how either. He'd have been happy if he lost, but he did win. Rumor has it, there was a story floating around that he was in the White House, in the Oval Office, staring out at the South Lawn at nothing in particular. And his wife said, I bet I could get 3 words of conversation out of you. He looked at her and said, you lose. Yeah, he'd rather be anywhere but there, but nonetheless, he does some good work while he's there. There's Calvin Coolidge in a lighter mood. He passed the Indian Citizenship Act. Native Americans are now U.S. citizens. Hey, finally, about time. Sorry about all the other stuff, but they're trying to make it up to you. He was always good with the Indians. The chief business of America is business. Calvin Coolidge is very much business friendly. Low taxes, a low corporate tax. Let businesses do what they want. Just kind of let them do things. I mean, I'm not saying he's pro monopoly. He'll still bust it up if he sees one. But for the most part, as long as you're not acting completely insane, he's not going to worry about you. So the economy's doing great. Everyone's happy. Why mess with it, right? He's having fun with this thing, as well as he could anyway. But we will always, always remember Calvin Coolidge for those immortal words, I will not run in 1928. Yeah, I decided I've been there long enough. I'm done. So, Republican Party's in office right now. Everything's great. The economy's booming. People have money. So, re-election of Republicans, no problem. That guy is going to be Herbert Hoover and talk about really bad timing. Herbert Hoover from the great state of Iowa was a good man. People liked him. He was an engineer originally, a self-made man, believe it or not. Came up from nothing and made his money in mining all over the world, China, even Russia on occasion. Yeah, he actually made it in the communist Russia, did some mining, made some money, got out. And just bad timing. The Great Depression, it wasn't a thing that just suddenly showed up. It was a very much a slow motion kind of disaster. We can see it coming from the future, but they couldn't because they were living there. You know, kind of what happened here in 2008, where we did actually see it coming and it still hit us. But in the 20s, you're starting to see some problems. Maybe that's why Calvin Coolidge just decided not to run. Maybe you saw it happening. There's a decline in the agricultural sector where farmers are going bankrupt. Farmers are shutting down. The prices are really low, so they can't make any money. It's also some topsoils being eroded away. Here comes the Dust Bowl. There's also a decline in demand for industrial goods like automobiles and household appliances. Stuff that requires a factory that need to be put together, and then it goes out there somewhere, and it gets shipped there, and the salesman gets it, and he sells it to somebody, and they buy some more stuff. The demand started dropping. So if you're making cars and you're not selling so many cars, and I got to put these cars somewhere because I'm not selling it, you're going to reduce your production, and then you start laying people off. So now we've got rising unemployment. Very slow, but it's starting to pick up some steam over here. So we've got rising unemployment, decline in demand for items, usually industrial items. And then, of course, we've got a farming crisis nobody sees coming. And then, boom, here comes the stock market. Everyone's involved in the stock market. Not everyone, but quite a few people. And they're buying stocks on margin, which means they're paying for stocks, but not full prices. So if you have a stock that's, say, $1, big money in the 20s, they're paying 7 cents for the stock. So that's on margin. And then eventually they make their money. Maybe they get out, maybe they stay in. But then when the market finally does collapse, people panic, they start selling stuff off, and they suddenly don't have the money to pay for the stocks. And I sold it to you, and I owe money, and I can't get it, and then I can't pay the bank, and then people get panicking, and they start taking their money out of the bank, and that money is not insured. So if there's $100,000 worth of assets, that bank might have like $75,000. So not everyone can get their money back. You gotta get to that bank fast to pull your money out. And then everybody panics, and you got huge lines and riots at banks, and the entire banking system completely collapses. And welcome to the Great Depression, where there's 25% unemployment, maybe more. Nothing is moving. Everybody is broke. You can't find a job because the guy you try to get a job for is sitting in the unemployment line there with you. So, who's in charge? Herbert Hoover. Who gets the blame? Herbert Hoover. We'll talk more about the Great Depression and how we try to get out of this thing. Guys, have a great day as we end on that depressing note. Moving on to chapter 23, the Great Depression, the real one, the one whose name they haven't changed. Have a great day.